The day my life fell apart started like every other Tuesday. I woke up early, made coffee, and checked my phone. There were dozens of missed calls from my fiancée Emily. I smiled, thinking she was probably excited about our wedding plans. I called her back. She didn't answer. A minute later, a message arrived. "Don't call me again, I know everything." I stared at the screen, confused. "Know what?" Before I could reply, another message appeared. "I never thought you could betray me like this." My heart dropped. I called again. Blocked. I immediately grabbed my car keys and drove to her apartment. When I arrived, Emily was standing outside with tears in her eyes. Behind her stood my older brother Daniel. The moment I saw him, something felt wrong. Emily looked at me with disappointment. "I can't believe you cheated on me," she whispered. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Daniel stepped forward, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. I didn't want to tell her, he said quietly, but she deserved to know. I looked at him in disbelief. "Know what?" He pulled out his phone and showed Emily several screenshots. Messages, photos, conversations. They supposedly showed me flirting with another woman for months. I stared at the screen. "They're fake." Emily shook her head. "You always have an excuse." "I swear they're fake." Daniel sighed dramatically. "I wish they were." For the first time in my life, I realized my own brother was destroying me. Emily took off her engagement ring. "I don't know who you are anymore." She placed it in my hand. "It's over?" She walked back inside without another word. I stood frozen. Daniel looked at me with fake sympathy. "I'm sorry, little brother." Then he smiled. A smile only I could see. That smile told me everything. He had planned this. I drove straight to my parents' house. Surely they would believe me. My mother opened the door. Before I could speak, she crossed her arms. "I already know. Mom, Daniel lied." She shook her head. "He showed us the proof. It's fake. You expect us to believe that." Dad remained silent on the couch. He didn't even look at me. "Please," I begged. "You've always been jealous of Daniel," Mom said. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I've never been jealous of him." She sighed. "Emily was never meant for you anyway." Those words hurt more than losing Emily. My own mother had already chosen a side. I looked at Dad. "Say something." He lowered his eyes. "I don't want problems between my sons." That was it. No defense. No questions. No support. I walked out of the house, knowing I had just lost my entire family. 2 months later, I received another message. It wasn't from my parents. It wasn't from Emily. It was an invitation. Daniel and Emily's wedding. I stared at it for nearly 5 minutes. The wedding was only 6 weeks after our engagement ended. That meant one thing. They hadn't fallen in love after the breakup. It had started long before. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because I finally understood everything had been planned. Every lie, every fake screenshot, every accusation. Daniel hadn't stolen my fiancée overnight. He had been working on it for months. I deleted the invitation. Then I packed a suitcase. That same night I left my hometown. Without saying goodbye to anyone. The first year was brutal. I moved into a tiny apartment with broken windows and barely enough room for a bed. During the day I worked construction. At night I studied online. Most nights I survived on instant noodles. Some weeks I wondered if leaving had been a mistake. But every time I wanted to quit, I remembered my mother's words. "She was never meant for you anyway." Those words became fuel. I promised myself one thing. One day no one would ever be able to look down on me again. 3 years passed. I changed jobs, then changed cities, then started working in technology sales. For the first time in years, life began improving. I learned everything I could. I worked weekends. I volunteered for difficult projects. While others partied, I built skills. My income doubled, then tripled. Within 5 years, I became a regional director. The same people who once ignored me now wanted my advice. I bought my first luxury apartment, then another as an investment. I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I was building freedom. One evening, I received an unexpected email. Subject: family reunion invitation. I almost deleted it. Then curiosity stopped me. The message read, "It's been years, we all miss you, please come home." I smiled bitterly. Years. Not one birthday message, not one phone call, not one apology. Now they suddenly missed me. I ignored it. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was my father. The first time he had called in 6 years. His voice sounded older. "I'd really like to see you." I stayed silent. Then he quietly added, "Your mother insists." I almost laughed. The same woman who told me Emily was never meant for me now wanted me back. Before hanging up, my father said something strange. "Things aren't the way you think." I frowned. What does that mean? There was a long silence. Finally, he whispered, Daniel isn't the man we believed he was. For the first time in years, I felt my heartbeat quicken. Something had happened. Something big. And for reasons I didn't yet understand, my family suddenly wanted me back. For the next 2 days, I couldn't stop thinking about my father's words. Daniel isn't the man we believed he was. For 6 years, no one had cared whether I was alive or dead. Now they suddenly wanted me home. I booked a flight, not because I forgave them, because I wanted the truth. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, everything looked smaller than I remembered. My father opened the door. His hair had turned almost completely gray. He looked at me with regret. You've done well for yourself, he said, noticing my suit in the luxury car parked outside. I didn't come here to talk about money. He nodded. I know. Inside, my mother was sitting quietly at the dining table. The confident woman who once dismissed my pain now looked exhausted. She stood up slowly. Ryan, I raised my hand. Don't. She lowered her eyes. I owe you an apology. I waited. Instead, she started crying. I'm sorry. Those 2 words came 6 years too late. What happened? I asked. Dad took a deep breath. It started a year after Daniel married Emily. Daniel had become controlling. He lied constantly. He borrowed money from everyone. He blamed others whenever something went wrong. Emily discovered that he had been cheating on her with multiple women. When she confronted him, he denied everything, just like he had done with me. Eventually, she found the truth. Fake messages, fake stories, manipulated screenshots, the same tricks he had used to destroy my life. She divorced him 2 years later. Then came something even worse. Daniel had convinced my parents to invest almost all their retirement savings into one of his business opportunities. It was a scam. The money disappeared. Nearly everything my parents had worked for was gone. He lied to us too, my mother whispered. For years we refused to believe it. I looked at her calmly. I tried to warn you. She nodded through tears. I know. That evening there was a knock at the door. Emily stood outside. She looked nothing like the woman I remembered. She looked tired, ashamed. I heard you came back, she said softly. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, she looked into my eyes. I owe you my life. You owe me the truth. She nodded. I never questioned Daniel. He showed me fake evidence. I believed every word. I didn't even give you a chance to explain. Tears rolled down her face. I destroyed the only man who ever truly loved me. I remained silent. She reached into her purse. I found this after the divorce. She handed me a flash drive. Daniel kept copies of everything. What is this? Proof. That night I opened the files. There were recordings, edited screenshots, fake conversations, even videos showing Daniel creating the false messages that ruined my engagement. I sat there in complete silence. For 6 years? I had wondered if maybe I could have done something differently. Now I knew there had never been anything I could have done. The next morning, Daniel arrived unexpectedly. He walked into the house as if he still owned it. Then he saw me. His smile disappeared. So the loser finally came back. No one laughed. He looked around and his confidence faded. What? Dad stood up. We know everything. Daniel rolled his eyes. Oh, here we go again. Mom placed the flash drive on the table. We watched every file. For the first time, Daniel looked nervous. He tried to laugh. Those are fake. Dad slammed his fist onto the table. Enough. The room fell silent. You framed your own brother. You destroyed this family. You stole from us. You lied to everyone. Daniel looked at me, then shrugged. So what? That single sentence shocked everyone. So what? Mom repeated. He laughed. You always loved him more than me. Dad stared at him. That's not true. It didn't matter, Daniel snapped. I wanted everything he had. The girl, the attention, the future. So I took it. No one spoke. The truth had finally been spoken aloud. Daniel expected me to yell, to insult him, to seek revenge. Instead, I stood up calmly. You didn't steal my future. You delayed it. He frowned. I lost 6 years, but those 6 years made me stronger. I built a life you could never take. I looked him directly in the eyes. The only person you destroyed was yourself. For the first time in his life, Daniel had nothing to say. He walked out without another word. None of us ever saw him again. Over the following weeks, I helped my parents organize their finances, not because they deserved it, because I refused to become as bitter as the people who had hurt me. One afternoon, my mother handed me a small box. Inside was the engagement ring Emily had returned years earlier. I kept it, she whispered. I hoped one day I'd have the courage to give it back. I smiled sadly. Keep it. It belongs to the past. She nodded. You've become a better man than we deserved. Before leaving town, I met Emily one last time at a quiet cafe. She apologized again. I don't expect forgiveness. You probably shouldn't. She accepted that. I just wanted you to know you were innocent. I know. She smiled sadly. I hope someday someone loves you the way you deserve to be loved. I hope you find peace too. We shook hands, then walked in opposite directions. Some people are meant to stay in your memories, not your future. A month later, I returned home. Not to the town where I grew up, but to the city where I had built my dreams. Standing in my office overlooking the skyline, I finally realized something. Success wasn't arriving in an expensive car. It wasn't proving anyone wrong. It wasn't watching the people who betrayed me suffer. Real success was waking up every morning without anger in my heart. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean giving people another chance. Sometimes it simply means refusing to let their betrayal control the rest of your life. And that was the greatest victory of all.